Hello out there and welcome to Public Conscience. This is the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOG. PRIMOG is a civil society group with the mandate to promote good governance, participation, and accountability in Nigeria. I am Adaobi Obiabumo with Chidozie Ogbonnaya.
Welcome to the program.
On Public Conscience on Radio, we seek to evolve a corruption-free society through the amplification of corruption stories reported by our partner media organizations and drawing citizens and government's attention for democratic actions against it. This program is supported by the MacArthur Foundation. On today's program, we will hear how commonwealth continue to be threatened by the actions of government officials who are saddled with governance. So you need to get ready to join us through phone and text messages on 0902-265-6167. Remember that this number is for calls only. Like I said earlier, on today's program, we will be looking at two separate but similar reports by Premium Times on how over 5 billion was illegally paid into personal accounts of officials of health and Agric Ministries.
In clear breach of Nigeria's financial regulation, a total of 3.08 billion naira was paid into the private accounts of 42 staffers of the Ministry of Agriculture, while in just 4 months, 2.4 billion naira was paid into the private accounts of 25 staff members of Health Ministry. According to the investigation, the infractions took place at the two ministries between September and December 2019. Reports on Open Treasury Portal, OPT, however, revealed that several fund disbursement by the Agric and Health Ministries into private accounts of officials were done through duplicate payments for air tickets, ESTA codes, and so on. Unfortunately, stories of financial infractions is not new in the government offices before now. It will be recalled that the Auditor General report of 2017 had disclosed that over 200 federal government ministries, departments, and agencies committed different financial breaches, which resulted in more than 300 billion naira not being accounted for. For better understanding of this report, we have in the studio Yusuf Akinpelu from Premium Times Center for Investigative Journalism. And we have Lemi Uwegbe, who is the Communications and Advocacy Director at Make a Difference Initiative. Let's quickly get to the overview of the investigations.
Basically, it's just about a couple of information on the Open Treasury Portal. That's the government transparency portal that's trying to keep track on government expenditure that meets a particular threshold. So the data we got from the portal was raising some red flags, part of which were you could see some amounts being paid to certain private accounts. Generally, the series was all about payment into private accounts for official purposes. Like for instance, in the Ministry of Health, there was a procurement for certain project for Lassa fever. So, and that money was meant for NDDC, and that happened at the tail end of 2019. Rather than pay the amount or the money into NDDC's account directly, or it should be sent directly to NDDC, it was sent to a private account. So, series of such were so many. There was also an instance where a particular staff got an ESTA code of around 6 million, which for just to escort the president to Russia. There was an Africa-Russia summit that held in Sochi in 2019. So she was paid 6.4 million, and ordinarily the highest paid person for international travels, that's ESTA code, that's the permanent secretary, gets $600 for each day. The whole event or the whole travel was for 5 days. So has she been a permanent secretary? If we assume she is, we are not sure if she is, but let's assume she is. Ordinarily, a trip for ESTA code should have just been 1.1 million for the 5 days spent. That's
and how much did she get again?
And she got 6.4 million. That's times 6. Of course, the agency, when you ask them, they will tell you the money were for many people, but it was sent directly into a person's account. But when you have access to, when you want to pay them their salary, there's a way you get them paid. When you want to pay like staff member, you already have the existing account. Just like I'm a staff of Kiss FM, and we have a retreat or we have something to do. So because you are the point man, you pay into my account. Why are they, if they want to pay for such expenses, how do they do it when they want to pay for their salaries and for other things? So why should they be paying money meant for many people into one person's account? It calls for questioning, and that was basically what we did. And of course, I think just the Ministry of Power responded to the FYE we wrote, asking them how and why those monies were spent and why there were red flags here and there.
You titled this report "Authority Stealing," and quite a big one. Share with us more the mind-boggling findings, because it's deep. I think you just scratched it on the surface.
Okay. The idea around the authority should, of course, it's just to say that these are people in authority who are making some form of illegality, because all of these actions are in contravention to the Civil Service Financial Regulation, which bars agencies from making payments into the private account without the pass of the Auditor General of the Federation. So it's basically trying to assess some of the instances of financial infraction in different agencies and as contained by on the Open Treasury Portal. And of course, some persons might see that, okay, since it is public, that means it's not been done. If it is not being done dubiously, but if they had their way, they wouldn't have made it in public domain. It's because it is mandated upon them to make it public. That is why we're able to access those information and say, okay, what are the red flags that you can see here and there? If, for instance, somebody is being paid for, there was a particular person in Ministry of Agric who was paid for similar reason, purpose, within 2 days, and person was paid to for the supply of some materials like staff member. Okay, there was also one that was done. It was paid for to carry out. It was paid for a particular retreat for staff member. If you want to have an event, for instance, you don't pay to somebody, you pay to maybe suppliers of maybe you want to feed, you pay people that are into food, catering services,
the hotel where they
exactly. So you don't pay to somebody who's like exactly. So those things are outsourced. It's not like I am the one rendering the service, so why should I be paid? So it gives room for abuse. If I have the money in my account, I can just decide, okay, this is how I determine how it will be shared and what have you. So that was the basic and the central idea of all of this thing, why the series was worked on.
Is the Accountant General aware? Did you approach him during the investigation?
Yes, absolutely. His office was written, and we asked, particularly when the first installation was out. That was the one indicting the Ministry of Power Works and Housing. That's the Ministry of Babatunde Raji Fashola. So we wrote the Accountant General's office asking, when the minister said these things were done with the knowledge of the Accountant General, and we were curious, okay, let the Accountant General speak as to what the minister said. But after a series of the letter we wrote, we've not got a response ever since.
But did the Ministry of Health respond, or Agriculture?
All of the ministries we wrote did not respond, except the Ministry of Power and Ministry of Health said they were reviewing the request. But that's since October last year. It's almost 4 months now. We've not got any response. But Ministry of Power did wrote, but even in their response, you could see some of the loopholes, because they gave a list of people to whom money was paid, and you could see that, okay, there was a person who was said he was paid for just like commissioner. These are maybe guards, security, people that are not core staff members. They are just, so you could see somebody was paid, a single person was paid their money. If you want to pay to people for rendering a service, you don't pay to somebody, you pay to those who render the service, like each individual person. So those are the basic things.
All right.
From what he said, it's a breach of Chapter 7, Section 713 of the Nigerian Civil Service Financial Regulation, which states that money should not be made into personal accounts especially that of its staff.
Exactly.
You've heard him explain his findings and the breach by the ministries, both health and Ministry of Agriculture. How would you react? Is it new to you? How would you react to it?
I like I start by commending Premium Times. Premium Times is doing a tremendous job. They are top-notch investigative media outfit, and I'm pretty impressed. The expectation on Premium Times is higher by the day because you've set a standard that's really difficult for others to track. Most other organizations, you can see, accessed most of the information on the portal, public portal, which means that if the media pays more attention and does less of so-called political stories and concentrates on what really affects our common humanity, which is corruption, and corruption in high offices. Authority stealing sounds very much like a fella kind of thing, you know. Now, I've repeatedly said, and I would say again, that this report lends credence to our position in my organization that corruption, it's even more heightened under this regime than it was before now. Yes, corruption has always been a bane, has always been a problem, but under this regime, it's heightened by the body language, by the action and inaction of especially the number one man in leadership position. We say this because the slowness with which they deal with issues of corruption. Normally, say what you will about an Obasanjo. The moment, even if you are his favorite child and you are in government with him, the moment a suggestion of corruption comes around that official, who is his favorite, the first thing he does is to get you out of office. And records abound on that. We know what he did with his bosom friend, Chief SMA Afolabi of blessed memory. We knew what he did with Tafa Balogun, Mustafa Tafa Balogun, IGP of police. But we have in this country, under this regime, where the grass cutter general of the federation took so much money as SGF for cutting grass, it took forever of Nigerians shouting, this must not be allowed to go scot-free. In a government that rode on the mantra of incorruptibility and to fight corruption, any semblance, any device, any semblance of corruption, you deal with decisively so as to discourage others. Now we have seen a government that looks at the faces, deodorizes corrupt people who are in its own inner circle, and puts others to trial who are not within the inner circle. And that's why corruption thrives. I'll tell you, beyond this that Premium Times has done, which doesn't surprise me, my own organization also is picked up, and I think I'll share some intelligence with you so that you people can also work on it. We've also invoked the Freedom of Information Act to speak civil defense. You have budget. If I tell you the kind of monies that they cannot account for, the kind of irregularities, you take a budget of, let's say, about 5 billion, you get allocation. You now go beyond, you spend maybe 3 billion. You do not remit the remaining 2 billion. You keep it. No accounting, no evidence that you remitted to Federation account. And this had happened for 2 years consecutively in civil defense. I can give you data, I can give you statistics. We've invoked the Freedom of Information Act to write them to say, respond to this. And there is a time limit. You cannot go the way your own people went for 4 months, they've not responded. It is a breach of the Freedom of Information Act, and you need to trigger action. Okay. The only way we get Nigeria right and fight corruption is if we all stay on the message and make sure that those who do not disclose on the Freedom of Information Act are punished for it.
Okay, let's look at the impact of what is going on. From what you've seen, what you've heard, what you know, what are the impacts of these financial infractions seen in our government ministries, agencies and departments today?
Yes. The impact is as glaring as a blind man can
how
even
it
see.
affects the health sector.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I give you an example in the health sector. I raised alarm sometime in November where even vaccines for people living with HIV/AIDS have not been procured for God knows how long. Even for, and you will see budgetary allocations. So that's the reason there is a decay in the health system, as there is a decay in most of our other systems.
You are saying corruption is the reason for the decay in our health system?
Yes, corruption and the failure of leadership. Because if leadership does not obnob with corruption, as the Hausas say, abokin barawo ni, a friend of a thief is a thief. Where you see a manifestation, even if you really want to fight corruption, the moment you see a sign, once there's an allegation, you show the people that you do not tolerate corruption, is zero tolerance, by first of all suspending the person who has been so alleged in high office. Then you can cause an investigation to be done. What has happened to the series of cases? We have the NDDC case, that at the end of the day, even the National Assembly in connivance, because nothing justifies our common patrimony being unaccounted for by the evidence of a drama that somebody has fainted. We cannot continue like that. And that's the reason there is a decay. That's the reason that we will say we have banned importation of rice, yet rice will flood, foreign rice will flood the Nigerian market and suffocate the growth of the Nigerian indigenous rice farmer. And you know that Customs said recently they've seized hundreds of thousands of bags of foreign rice in this short time. How do they get in? From the customs, from the borders, all of this illegality goes on. And unless there is decisive action, we will always have this.
Corruption and lack of good leadership, from what you said. You also did mention that any semblance of corruption should be dealt with decisively to discourage others. Yusuf, I'll direct this question to you. It's over a month since these reports were published. Did you get in touch with the anti-graft agencies? And are you aware if any action has been taken against the indicted government officials?
Yes, but first I should quickly touch on the question around the implication of all of this. If, for instance, if you want to single out the Ministry of Health, when all of these payments were made, or all of these disbursements were made, a few months later, coronavirus came in, and the country had to scamper to raise funds, to gather money to tackle the virus. And it had to also take out certain loans to offset some of the challenges posed by coronavirus. So this is just to tell us that we could have access to money, and I'm talking about the public space now, but if we do not save for the raining days, if we do not take action by ensuring that the leakages in our financial system is blocked, then we always have issue to somebody was paid 6 times for something she did, the money was saved, that money could have served another purpose in the health sector. So that's just to show the implication and why it is necessary that authority take action and ensure that it is not just business as usual. It's because what is emboldening this sort of thing is because people are not usually punished. And now I will now go to your question on
if the anti-graft agencies
have
responded.
As of when the story was on, a couple of times we reached out to the ICPC, the FCC, and even the NFIU. So just asking them if they are aware of this, are they taking action? Of course, they gave their words that it's something they are working on, that it's something they frown against, and they will keep working on it and ensure they make known their discoveries. But we still are expecting that, but we are not resting just to maybe let it slip. We are still on their toes. We are still on our toes, trying to put themselves on their toes and asking questions until something changes.
I encourage you to continue being on your toes.
Absolutely. And
permit me to say that once a report, well-researched report, investigated report like this emerges, it is actually not for Yusuf and Premium Times to reach out. ICPC has Public Enlightenment Desk. It will not slip through without them seeing and cutting that report. EFCC also does. rather than, but we're people that major in the minor and minor in the major, rather than concentrate on this level of gargantua corruption in public office, they'll go chasing individuals with who I bought a car from this person, he did not deliver the car, and all. They'll major in minor. They need to on their own, and that's why I say the system, Taiso Larry of blessed memory says, Nigerians are corrupt because the system of governance in which they live in makes corruption easier and more profitable. It is because we will have a system, yes, and we will have a civil service rule that ordinarily for breaching it, you should be dealt with decisively. It's not supposed, Premium Time is not supposed to call the head of civil service to the attention of the head of civil service. What step has been taken? They should now, what you call them to do, and other media houses should call them to do, is to write a story saying that weeks after this report, the government is still condoning this. It will force them to take action. So media must be proactive to follow up. If they won't investigate, and Premium Times would investigate, they should now follow up on that by leading the agenda.
They should follow up. Premium Times and other media houses should follow up, probably right.
And that's why I think that's why programs like this is the plus. So it's just to continue to reawaken the discussion around the issue, which is commendable.
Adobe, we need to bring in
the listener to join the conversation.
Please follow us on our social media platforms at Official Prime
and send us a message on 0902 265 6167. This number is for messages only. Please WhatsApp and text message. You could send us those messages right now, but we need to open the phone lines. Do you think corruption in the public sector is responsible for the poor health delivery in Nigeria? Do you think corruption is partly responsible for the poor performance of the Ministry of Agriculture in their failure to develop a sustainable template for food storages, processing, and export? And again, how can we tackle corruption in the public sector? The phone lines are buzzing already.
All right.
Hello.
Hello. This is Oshago. Calling out from Lube.
Let's hear you.
Yeah, this is a very nice program. But from where you stop about the press, are they following up after the drama? Like the press, you mentioned the pundit, the NDBC, the same thing like this. After that drama at National Assembly, what happened? Nobody knows. When some people quoted in court, and they want to travel abroad on the frivolous accusation. So for me, the fourth aspect of the realm that was supposed to be a control, they are only interested in the momentum drama. After the drama, what happened? There are some government.
You are a citizen of Nigeria, you also have the responsibility to hold government to account. What have you done?
Nigerians, we are weak. You guys are our voice. And thank God you are giving us this platform. We are talking now. But we only rely so much on press they should be bold enough. They should be bold enough to come out and attack some of this investigation, follow up on it, so that at the end of the day, not that after some time, like the case of NDBC now, maybe the next 3 months we are going to witness another drama. What happened thereafter? So those are the issues we continue to highlight, we continue to investigate. At the end of the day, if we are able to succeed in conflicting one person successfully, it's an achievement for the administration. Good morning and God bless you.
Thank you so much for your contribution. The media. What is the role of the citizen in all of this? You are a Nigerian. You also have the mandate to hold government to account. It's not just the media. Yes, the media has a fortress of they have a responsibility also, which is why Premium Times, they've gone out to investigate. They've published it. Primorg is amplifying the report for you to be aware. Now that you are aware, what have you done also? You need to do something. You need to act. Collectively, we all have a responsibility. Let's stay with
Yusuf.
Yusuf Akingpelu.
Yeah, Yusuf.
Yeah.
Let's look at, because I love it when I look at the fact that you investigated, you were there on the field, so you saw some of these things that we didn't see or we won't see sitting here. Now you said you reported to EFCC, ICBC that were. So what do you think is responsible for this lack of action by the government or anti-graft agencies, even when there's glaring evidence that these things happen?
I think it's clear-cut. It's a matter of lack of political will to swing to action. Perhaps the thinking that in the long run there could be some so-called agents who might eventually be indicted. It's just basically lack of political will, because the evidence are there glaring. It's not like it was cooked up. It's not like it's something we manufactured ourselves. It's there in the public domain, and that is why it's even a case of no-brainer. If you have a reason to say, okay, this is what was paid to somebody's account within this period, and it's published on government portal, which means it's still the government telling us this is what we've done, and the press tried to assess or analyze some of the information put out there by the government, and you could see that these things call for questioning. But if there's nothing done by the anti-corruption agency, whose job is to hold people in the public sector, and of course even in the private sector, accountable for financial infractions, and they are not taking up the action, I think it's just a matter of lack of political will. It's not like the evidence are not there. The evidences are there for them to see and to work on. So it's just basically they not wanting to do something.
We keep saying political will, political will, political will. Does it mean that they don't understand the implications of all of this?
It's still, of course they should, and we all do, because if we don't even understand the implication of them, one thing is clear. The instance I cited about the Ministry of Health having already lavished some money, so to say, or maybe not being accountable in their spending in previous year, and the next year coronavirus came in and we had to be scamping around for money and all. So if we don't even know the implication, like generally, that alone is an implication, because we didn't save for the rainy days. We spent on something, we majored in minor, so to say. So it's just a matter of us understanding. And when I say political will, I mean the real bravery to act.
A real bravery to act.
Come whose axe was God. It's just a matter of you taking action, and even if it is a minister who was culpable, he's punished.
You know, the disturbing thing is that the 2017 Auditor General report said that over 200 agencies committed one financial infraction. And this is an official document coming from the government. It's not. It wasn't manufactured by anybody.
Absolutely.
It's their own investigation. Let me ask you this, because do you think political leaders? Because he just mentioned that political will. So let's come to political leaders. You've touched on it before. Do you think political leaders have shown enough seriousness in fighting systemic corruption in our public service?
Let me remind us of 2014, pre-2015, when many people kept saying, oh, these politicians and thieving public officials, big government functionaries, civil servants, they are in trouble if Buhari comes in. They are in trouble if Buhari eventually makes 2015. All those big houses all over Jabi, Asokoro and Co that are empty, oh, they are in trouble. There was so much people said, there was trepidation that Buhari, the incorruptible, is coming and he's not going to tolerate this. In fact, Nigeria will change for the better. What are we saying? All of those narratives pointed to the fact that Nigeria was looking for that leader who will be brutal with issues of corruption, who will belong to everybody and belong to nobody. And that was why that his inaugural speech in 2015 resonated with Nigerians, that he's passing a message that he is going to be fair, he's going to be decisive and all. That was our position. Most Nigerians thought. And we need that kind of leadership. Let me tell you, say whatever you will about the then Chief Olusegun Matthew Aremu Okikiola Obasanjo. I use him as example. Most of the people who were tried, who suffered under Obasanjo, were his closest allies. Some ran out of the country. We have Otumba Fashawe, EFCC came after him. We have SMA Afolabi, ICPC arrested him. We have Tafa Balogun, who was Inspector General of Police, and those were the closest boys to Obasanjo they were dealt with. So people feared corruption under Obasanjo. It didn't mean that there was no corruption. No, that's not true. But people did not do it with such impunity and brazenness. Under this government, it is different. The leadership that we thought of will come and people will be afraid to even collect a pin from anybody else. That is not what we have.
Are we saying the government has not done anything at all?
See, governments, I use the example of Babashir Lawal. It took us almost 1 year of shouting that he should be relieved. Because the moment you are secretary to the government of federation, the moment such an allegation as strong as that is, look, under an Obasanjo, the person will not stay 1 week.
But in all fairness, if you look at his report, Yusuf's report, you know that there's collusion between public servants.
But that's the point. But that's the point.
The president might not be able to be everywhere.
No. The president doesn't need to be everywhere. Are you saying the president now is not seized of this fact? What step has been taken after this publication was done?
That is where we have.
What is the directive to EFs? Is body language, leadership's body language. If you know that the president will challenge you as EFCC, and remember how the Magu drama has played out, I continue to say all of these kind of committees and pro panels we set up and do jamboree. Instead of being decisive, if you already have prima facie evidence, charge the matter to court. Nigerians will respect you that you are tackling corruption better. If you charge the matter to court, then set up pro panel. Where has it gone to since last year till now? Now that is what we are talking about: action and inaction, body language and whatever. It is not enough to tell me that, look, if I know that one day Obasanjo, I am ICPC chairman, and I know that the president Buhari will summon me to see without notice to say, look, these are the information I have. What have you done? I want to see your case file on these things, including the Premium Times report now. If I know that the president can summon me, I will take action. Okay. But we know that the president will not.
Let's take this call. Hello. Your name and where you're calling from.
Thank you so much, Mr. Judy Pronato from FHF.
Let's hear you, Jude. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Happy New Year to your colleagues. And they are yes in the house.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Nobody is saying that the government have not done anything. But what we are saying here is that the government have not done enough to compare with what they promised Nigeria. The expectation that made us to give them our votes, we have not seen it. All them promised us, they have not even done water. And coming to the information, nobody is saying that Mr. President can be everywhere at a time. But Mr. President listens to news. He read newspapers. He always in the social media. He listens to different types of television and radio stations. So all these things that is happening, are we saying that Mr. President is not hearing about it? Just like your guests have said, if it is the time of Obasanjo or even Goodluck or even the time of Yar'Adua, the issue of this NDDC of a thing that at the end of the day, the senator just wipe everything with the minister under the carpet. If it was during the Obasanjo era, the so-called Minister of Niger Delta will lift up it and go and answer questions.
So do you think that corruption is responsible for the poor health delivery in Nigeria?
Very, very well. Because it is, we are these people come in the issue of that they come to fight corruption. But in this era, during this administration, the corruption is now increasing more than the way it is before. And nobody is going against anybody. The president will just feel that nothing is happening. Even when Nigerians are caring and crying, the president will not listen. The people that is feeding him with news, they are giving him fake news. And I know that the Mr. President, his advisors are not advising.
Thank you so much for your contribution. We have a message from Mr. Philip, and he says, Ministry of Health needs serious probing. Its agencies, and particularly the Federal Medical Center Abuja, so much of funds voted for their efficiency staff welfare are not dispensed. In respect to the COVID-19 intervention, it is pathetic. Allowances of staff who take the risks under these circumstances are not being paid. Employment of adequate staff, particularly nurses for the intervention schemes, are not done. A situation where one nurse would be left to cover a department on night shift for that matter is a management irresponsibility. Let the issues of the Federal Medical Center Abuja, amongst others, be critically reviewed. Talking about the health challenges and the implication of the impact of corruption in our health sector. Please keep the messages coming 0902-265-6167. We want to hear from you. Do you think corruption in the health sector is responsible for the poor health delivery in Nigeria? And do you also think that corruption is partly responsible for the poor performance in the Ministry of Agriculture in their failure to develop a sustainable template for food storages, processing, and export? We still have Akin Pelu of Premium Time Center for Investigative Journalism with us, and Lemi Ugewe. We are still in the studio looking at authority stealing, a report done by Premium Center for Investigative Journalism.
Lemi was on a thought before we got in there. But this time we'll look at who will bear the cat this time. How do we come out of this problem that we are in?
Okay.
Let's start from Yusuf.
Yes, I think the first thing is us raising the awareness about it, because it may not be clear cut, or how much of how we could determine that may not be clear. But one thing is certain: the fact that the public knows about this now would deter them from the public space from doing so much of it subsequently. Okay, one of the reasons I think that is so is because the Ministry of Power that responded to our FOI.
Could you please hold your thought there? Let's take this call. Sorry to cut you short. Hello. Your name and where you're calling from?
Please, Abu from Rozo.
Let's hear you. Go ahead.
What I damn mad your guests have been saying, I said the actual truth. That is the truth. There's nothing to argue about. What they say is exactly true. They are not party corruption. Go to all the ministry, go to education, all the ministry. There's too much of corruption. Yeah, so they are not party corruption. Thank you.
Hold on. Are you still there?
Yes.
So what should we do?
What should we do is to start it from the top. Let there be the monitoring. Even in education, let there be monitoring. Be what they did. If they want to monitor any school, go to any school, they will form them. When they form them, they put things on that. Immediately they left, started doing one way or the other. It's not supposed to be. So inform people that you're going to inspect the school. You have to go there, see what they're going on. Go to many schools, the government school, see what is going corruption, full everywhere. People are being carry people who belong to who is their people. Nepotism, everything is destroy the whole nation, destroy the whole school. That's what they're supposed to do. They're not supposed to inform people. Get some people that can monitor all this area. And those people that monitor will be truthful. Not all those people eye service or lip service. Because Nigeria believe in eye service. Any person is the other side they believe in. Eye service is not supposed to believe in Nigeria. Do it and let's see. So thank you. That's what they're supposed to do.
So much eye service, like we say it in Nigeria. Then there should be monitoring and evaluation, if I should add that template in all the ministries, departments and agencies. Please go ahead, Yusuf.
So I was saying the Ministry of Power, in response to our FOI, said they are trying to put in place a mechanism to ensure that all of those the financial leakages in the ministry is being blocked. So a series of steps are being taken. That's from the Ministry of Power, for instance. So I want to understand. I want to believe that even other ministries, whether or not they respond, but because they know people are on their trail.
Are you comfortable with their pace?
Of course not. But it's just baby steps that can always get to giant strides. So we may not exactly get there immediately. But the fact that some of these issues are being raised, that people are aware of it, questions are being asked, then it's just a matter of checkmating them, and we can always just hope things get better. And talking about even the fight against corruption, it's still I really want to believe that the launch of the OTP, that's the Open Treasury Portal, was also a way of checking this corruption. So it could be something the current administration tried to do because if they hadn't done this, we wouldn't have known this is happening. So of course, now that this is in place, and the public is knowing some of the things that are wrong with the system, and questions are being asked, and that would also set template on how to improve on ensuring there's accountability in the system.
Accountability. Okay, let's get to Lemmy.
Yeah. Lemmy, just like Yusuf, what is your charge? Because we cannot exonerate citizens from this. Fight against corruption is your fight and my fight. What is your
when
charge?
You look at the reports.
Okay.
The names of those people who these monies were paid to are citizens and not the president.
So, what is your charge for the citizens on the war against
for all
corruption?
of us? For all of us, also starting from the president, because the head has to get it right. The idea that we have now that even the Ministry of Health cannot do appropriation and make purchases except they pass through the Ministry of Agric. I hope you are aware. Now, the reports had it that at some point they wanted to procure vaccines for humans from the Ministry of Health, and because passing the Agric channel, they went and bought vaccines for animals instead in millions of dollars. Now that is already enabling corruption by the president allowing such misnomer to happen. Get the Ministry of Health to do its work. Only make sure there is proper monitoring. Why will Agric be supervising purchases on behalf of Ministry of Health? That is part of a systemic way of. Now this happened, I don't know if they've sorted that out in recent time, but this has been recurring. How do we get it right? Citizens must know that the biggest office in the land is the office of the citizen of Nigeria, CON. When I introduce myself, someone introduces me, I say put CON there. Yes, we must know the strength in ourselves as citizens. When you know it, you are able to speak. You are able to come together. We must de-emphasize ethnicity and religion and stay true to ourselves and to our citizenship. Okay? Now, look at for how long, I will continue to say, for how long we will shout that, look, you change a team that is doing badly. We continued till people stayed on, and junior officers who should aspire kept on losing their turn and getting, and somebody was staying 41 years in service. Now that is corruption enabled by the president and commander-in-chief, because the statute is clear. You cannot do beyond what the law has prescribed by 6 extra years. There are no justifications for it. We cannot say that there are only 3 service chiefs that will lead Nigeria. So if they died today, nothing. The president has taken forever to respond to the citizens. We thank God we could do that. But how do we get it right? Let the citizens come up, wake up, de-emphasizing those things that divide us and emphasizing those things that unite us. One, we have a common humanity. We all go hungry. We all go to the same market. We all earn from the same labor. So, can we come together? Because one of the first ways to get it right is if we can unite and insist on a proper reform of the Electoral Act to return power to the people, where our votes will count, where money politics will no longer be the order of the day. If we get it right from the Electoral Act, you and I know who is that honest man. We know who are those dubious ones, and we will vote on the strength of integrity. But so long as the politicians, the thieving politicians that we have been cursed with, not blessed with over the years, are the ones who still manipulate the system to determine it, then we will still be battling with corruption. The first way to fight it is for citizens to wake up, for citizens to unite in demanding that the laws are reformed for the elections. That way we put people who at least have some semblance of fear of God, then we can begin to fight corruption genuinely. Until we do that, we are still going to continue. We've been talking about this corruption for as long as 60 years. We will still talk about it if we do not get the right people in power. And citizens must wake up to their responsibility of, one, getting your voters register. INEC must also not wait for 6 months, 6 days or 6 weeks to election. Open it. There must be continuing voters registration, so that people who are 18 now, or those who did not vote, did not get their cards before, can do new cards and get on board. That way, we have to win it from the political angle by getting the electoral laws right.
Thank you so much. Talking about the office of the citizens, we must de-emphasize ethnicity and religion and stay true to Nigeria as a citizen. Thank you so much for that contribution. Yusuf, your last take.
It's for us to keep pushing. To keep doing what is right, and for us to keep asking questions, genuine questions. The press should continue to do its own job to show, cleanse the system and ensure that they continue to demand for accountability, and of course the public, the civil service too, the CSOs and all of they too should continue to promote and amplify some of this message like you are doing. And we should, as citizens too, should always do the needful in terms of us demanding as we ought to, asking questions, and us ourselves too, because sometimes we begin to even ask questions about where we emphasize the political leadership in the country. We often have to just think of it, okay, where do they come from? We say it's from among we the people. So we ourselves, individually, we should always imbibe the right value. Because when you have the right value system, that is when you can always bring it forth in whatever capacity you serve. If you have a responsibility given to you in your individual space, deliver it, do what you are needed for, do what you are paid for. Do not cheat the system.
Do not cheat the system.
And
that's how we're wrapping it up. Dozie?
The exalted office of the citizen. Although you should be putting CON for me.
For you alone?
Yes.
No, I'm a citizen too. CON for me also.
And that's how we are wrapping up the program today. Please visit the news page of our website, news.primorg.org. That is news.primorg.org. For all the details of our reports and interviews, visit our website, primorg.org, and to get all the information about Primorg.
And you can watch our videos on Primorg TV, our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get reminders when we have a new post. We sincerely appreciate our guest, Yusuf Akingpelu from Premium Time Center for Investigative Journalism. Thank you so much for being a part of today's episode.
Thank you for having me.
And Lemi Uwegbe, who is the Communication and Advocacy Director at Make a Difference Initiative. Thank you so much for always being here.
Thank you.
Public Conscience is supported by the John Thee and Catherine Thee MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation from its website, macfound.org.
Join us again here next week for another interesting episode of Public Conscience on Radio. And remember to follow us on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Official Primorg. I am Chidozie Obunnaya.
And remember that you can give us information or hints about corruption acts through our phone line 0902-265-6167 or info@primorg.org. We also want to appreciate those who called in. Next week is another opportunity for you to be part of the program. Like Yusuf said, the leakages in our system should be blocked if we must tackle corruption. I am Adaobi Obiabumo. Stay safe.